Alright, next we're going to do some sampling. I'm going to press sampling, the button which is located to the lower left of our screen. And as you can see, we have three options: audio phrase, patch, and sample. Alright, our first option here on our sampling screen is audio phrase. Now basically what this is, it'll allow us to sample in a phrase of audio from our inputs back here, and we will be able to either assign it to an audio track or to a pad later on. Next we have patch here. Now this allows us to sample a sound in and assign it directly to a pad. Next we have sample. Now this just lets you take a sample and put it into your memory. We're not going to assign it to anything. And so this is a good way just to, take a few samples and decide what to do with them later on. Alright, for our purpose today, we're going to use patch. Now we're going to take in a sound and assign it to a pad. Let's get ready to do that. We're going to press F2 for patch. And here we go, we're in our sampling screen. Alright, our first window here on our sampling screen is our sample type. We have stereo, and if I turn the jog wheel here, we have mono. Right, basically mono means we're going to only be taking one side of our input, and stereo means we're going to be taking both sides of our inputs. Next we have start trigger, and there's a few options here. We have level, we have pad, play, and that looks like about it. Oh, and also manual. Alright, so basically what start trigger does is it tells our sampler when to begin sampling. When it's on manual, it means that when I hit start right down here in the corner, which is F5, it's going to start sampling. Now I can switch it to level. Now what this says is when the incoming audio level passes a certain point, the sampler will begin to record. Next we have level. Now right here with level, you see there's another box right here to the right of it that says level. When I change this number... Alright, next we have level. Now when we select level here, this little box right here to the right of it becomes available. And we can change this number in our little level box here. And as I change it, you can see this little dot right here on our meters is moving up and down. So basically what this level up here means is that when the incoming audio signal passes this little point, the sampler will begin to record. And that's how you start like an auto trigger. Alright, our next option here is pad. This means that when I hit start down here, and I'm going to show you guys, I'll hit F5, it says waiting pad to start. Basically that means all I have to do is hit one of our 16 velocity pads down here at the bottom and it will begin recording. It's a good way of sort of punching in a sample if you want to do it that way. It's up to you. I'm going to hit cancel. And our last option is play. This is basically the same as pad, but when we hit start recording here at the bottom, it'll say waiting for play. And that button is the play on your transport. Two different ways of starting your sampler. Alright, below our start trigger, we have stop trigger. Now I showed you before in start trigger, we have different ways of starting the sampler. In stop trigger, we basically have different ways of stopping it. We have manual. That would mean that I would just have to hit the stop button once I start recording. We have beat, we can have our sampler play, say, 8 beats right over here. This is how we would select it, and then it would stop recording. We can also have time. Basically, we can go over here. This is our time box, and we can set the amount of time for our sampler to record. Pretty basic, pretty simple. Alright, next you'll see here we have pre-sample time. And right now it's sort of grayed out. We can't get to it. See, it sort of skips past it. The only way you can do pre-sampling is if you're set to level here. And pre-sampling basically means it's going to start the sampler to record a little bit earlier than when we actually set it for our level, so that it'll catch all of our transients. Alright, we're going to be using manual. I'm going to go down here. There's 3 options here. We have auto divide, auto emphasis, and auto normalize. Alright, so basically auto divide is, if we select this on, it's going to divide our sample every few seconds, and we can set that time there. This is good for, say, dividing up like a breakbeat loop into separate drum samples. Say you just want to get the kick, snare, and hat. And we'll show you this later on. Next you have auto emphasis. Auto emphasis adds sort of more highs to your sample. Check in the book for a good description of emphasis and see if it's going to be right for your sample. Next we have auto normalize. When this is checked, it's going to take the sample that comes in, see at what's the highest peak of your sample, and bring that to 0. So basically it's going to take your sample and make it louder than it is, if it isn't too loud already. Now, all the way at the bottom of our sampling screen, you can see here it says wave memory, 118 megabytes, remaining 11 minutes, 41 seconds.